Hi, this is my research paper entitled Analysis of Work Stress, Workload and Work Environment on Turnover Intention through Commitment Organization of Nurses. I am Putih Istriawan. Nurse turnover is a serious challenge to the efficiency and effectiveness of health services because it harms the organization both in terms of cost, resources, and motivation of nurses. Work stress and workload will affect emotions, thoughts, and physical condition, including the ability to control, so it affects their desires out of the organization. Industrial turnover also increases if the work environment is not supportive, thereby organizational commitment also decreases. The purpose of this research is to determine the effect of work stress, workload, and work environment on turnover intention through an organizational commitment to nurses. The population of this study is all nurses of Aisyah Kudus Hospital, as many as 142 nurses, while the total sampling of all nurses, as many as 142 nurses, was used as a research sample. The data analysis was performed using Structural Equation Modeling, or SEM, using AMOS. Before analyzing the data, the SEM assumption test is performed, which includes the number of samples, normality test, outlier test, and multicollinearity test. Path analysis testing is done by using the Sobel test. In this study, the validity test was conducted with confirmatory factor analysis, or CFA. The table above shows all items in all research instruments are valid because it has a factor loading value that is more than 0.5. The reliability tests were performed with construct reliability, or CR, and average variance extracted, or AV. The table above shows that all instruments have CR values of more than 0.7 and AV more than 0.5. Based on this, it can be concluded that all the instruments used in this study are reliable. The univariate outlier test is done by looking at the z-score from the research data. Based on the table, it can be concluded that there are no univariate research data outliers because there is no value z more than 3.0. The outliers multivariate test is done by looking at the value of Mahalanobis distance. Based on the table, it can be concluded that there is no outliers in the multivariate because there is no data that has a p-value of less than 0.01. The normality test was carried out univariately by looking at the value of critical ratio skewness and multivariately by looking at the critical ratio of Mardia multivariate kurtosis. Based on the table, it can be concluded that univariately all data are normally distributed because there is no CR value of more than plus minus 2.58, and multivariately all data are also normally distributed because the value of CR Mardia multivariate kurtosis is less than plus minus 2.58, which is negative 1.960. Table 6 shows that the number of distinct sample moments is greater than the number of estimated parameters. Thereby, the model can be identified. Based on Figure 1, structural equation modeling test result can be described as follows. T-square is equal to 192.168. Probability is equal to 0.042. CMIN or DF is equal to 1.201. RMSEA is equal to 0.038. GFI is equal to 0.885. AGFI is equal to 0.885. 949. TLI is equal to 0.966. CFI is equal to 0.971. Based on Table 7, 4 fit model indicators are categorized as good, which are relatively CMIN or DF, RMSEA, TLI, and CFI. Thereby, the SAM model meets the fit model criteria. Table 8 shows the result of the hypothesis summary. The first hypothesis is that there is an influence of work stress on organizational commitment at the Aisyah Kudus Hospital. The second hypothesis is that there is an influence of workload on organizational commitment at the Aisyah Kudus Hospital. The third hypothesis is that there is an influence of work environment on organizational commitment at the Aisyah Kudus Hospital. The fourth hypothesis is that there is an influence of work stress on the turnover intention at the Aisyah Kudus Hospital. The fifth hypothesis is that there is an influence of workload on the turnover intention at the Aisyah Kudus Hospital. The sixth hypothesis is that there is an influence of the work environment on the turnover intention at the Aisyah Kudus Hospital. The seventh hypothesis is that there is a turnover intention at the Aisyah Kudus Hospital. The seventh hypothesis is that there is an influence of organizational commitment on the turnover intention at the Aisyah Kudus Hospital. Table 9 shows that work stress directly affected the turnover intention in the Aisyah Kudus Hospital because of the p-value is more than 0.05, which is 0.0959. Based on this, it can be concluded that the eighth hypothesis of this study was rejected. Table 10 shows that workload directly affected the turnover intention in the Aisyah Kudus Hospital because the p-value is more than 0.05, which is 0.1005. Based on this, it can be concluded that the ninth hypothesis of the study was rejected. Table 11 shows that the work environment directly affected the turnover intention in the Aisyah Kudus Hospital because the p-value is more than 0.05, which is 0.1097. Based on this, it could be concluded that the 10th hypothesis of this study was rejected. Some conclusions in the study, namely, first, there are influences of work stress, workload, and work environment on organizational commitment to the Aisyah Kudus Hospital. Second, there are influences of work stress, workload, and work environment on the turnover intention in Aisyah Kudus Hospital. Third, there is an influence of organizational commitment on the turnover intention in the Aisyah Kudus Hospital. Fourth, work stress, workload, and work environment directly influence the turnover intention at the Aisyah Kudus Hospital.